Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Sayorius, and today we're going to be taking a look at Kagurabachi chapter 7 and 8. And oh my goodness, there's a lot that happens, and I am very excited. There's one thing that does annoy me, and I'll get to it a little bit later, but let's start off by the introduction of sort of just more of this world, which is, of course, the introduction of Mr. Azami, and he is part of a group that works under the government, and they're basically taking on the mafia. So they're another faction introduced into this world, and we get a lot of backstory. Not only is Mr. Azami a badass, he fought and fended off a lot of sorcerers, but also the fact that we get this backstory of what they're planning for the mafia, which is this black market auction called the Rakuza Ichi. And one of the seven enchanted blades is actually going to be up for auction. That isn't Cloud Gouger, it's another blade. So there's two blades now introduced into the story that they know about. And this arms dealer, Sojo, is the person behind all this. And he already is a terrifying villain, and it leaves off with just sort of setting up this big event for Chapter 7. Now, I wasn't thinking much of Chapter 7, it was more just the introduction of sort of just lore with Mr. Azami, what the Mafia is up to, and like where the other two swords are, which is really cool. Now, Chapter 8 is where everything kind of goes insane, Insano style. You get sort of this redemption arc from Daruma, which is the guy from earlier on that Chihiro fought. He was the guy with the exploding dolls, and he ends up just confessing everything. And because of Mr. Shiba, Shiba actually tells him to turn over a new leaf, that there's still good that he can do, and it's not too late to turn around. And I was actually excited for this. I thought that this was going to be his redemption arc. He was going to be one of the cool people to sort of turn it around and end up joining the fight with Chihiro and Shiba, and that would be awesome. But we don't get that. Instead, we get, of course, him meeting his sister, only to find her dead at this point. We think she's dead, because she's bleeding with like a sword wound, basically impaled through the back. And we see, of course, we see the ambush taking place with the arms dealer, and he gets stabbed through the back. And this is when you know he's probably gonna die, and it's really unfortunate because it's just like you thought he was gonna have a redemption arc. And that's the one thing I'm talking about that I was kind of annoyed by, is just sort of Sojo just killing him, and I was like, damn it, we were so close to a redemption arc. But I get it, because he spilled the beans. He wasn't supposed to reveal all that information, but Mr. Shiba got all the information out of him. So now Sojo's going after everyone. He's upset by the betrayal. So he, of course, in a last act of desperation, tries to blow himself up with his dolls, trying to kill Sojo in the process. But of course, the villain won't die at this point. He escapes the car before he blows up. And it's actually kind of chilling. He leaves the car with actually saying one last thing, where he didn't kill the woman. He didn't kill his sister. She's only unconscious. So by blowing up the car, he ends up being the one to kill the sister. We get, of course, this other person that's introduced. I think this is the road person or one of the other sorcerers that they fought. But of course, since they failed, they get decapitated by Sojo. So Sojo is shaping up to be a very threatening first villain for Chihiro. At least like for like a main villain, because you know, all of the subordinates that basically failed, he's just going around and just murdering them all. Just no mercy. And he like threatens another person by like digging into his memories, it looks like, or his desires, or something that has to deal with like the neurological pathways. I don't know, it's something. And it's like it only lasts for a few seconds. So he like talks about how fascinating his power is. So maybe this guy, this subordinate, it doesn't look like he killed him quite yet, I don't think. So, or maybe he did. It looks like he did. I don't know, it's uncertain. But I think for the sake of the story, I think he may have killed him, but he's able to look at your powers through memories or something. That's like one of his powers here. I also must say we're actually seeing him in action too, and he actually has a really cool design. The more that you look at him, he looks insane, like mentally deranged, and I like that. Especially like with the lines under the eyes, the way they're colored, that looks like soot. Like it's almost like it's burned. Like the under part of his eyelid, which is really cool. And then I had to like rewind because the next panel after he just murders, supposedly murders the person, like moments before, he basically goes to the cafe and immediately attacks and he literally goes straight into a duel with Chihiro, and he apparently has Cloud Gouger, which, I mean, you kind of figure because he has a sword, but we actually get the reveal that it is Cloud Gouger that he is possessing. So there's one sword that he is up for auction, and that is going to be one of the other swords. We don't know what sword it is yet, but then we also have Cloud Gouger, which we were introduced earlier on. He's the one who has it. So he tells Mei to run with Char to escape, because now the big fight's gonna happen. And it's awesome because they're tearing up the shop and everyone's terrified. And he remembers, of course, because we get introduced to, of course, Mr. Azumi, which is the guy who works for the government from last chapter. And he basically tells Chihiro, look, there's an auction going on. There's going to be like the big wigs from the different mafias there. Like, you're not going to be able to handle this. Like, you're growing, you have strength, but you're you're nowhere near the level you need to be to beat these people. Like, the person that he's fighting, he's out of your league. And the fact that we just jump straight into a fight and leave on that cliffhanger of just them about to show down with an amazing panel, by the way. That, I mean, if it wasn't for, I will say, Attack on Titan, like the final episodes of Attack on Titan dropping, a lot of people would be talking about this. I think this was just poor timing for Kagurabachi when like the most epic chapter they have dropped so far is just being overshadowed by everything. So great chapter. It did annoy me that we didn't get that amazing redemption from Daruma that they were setting up and he was just murdered, but that's how it usually goes for people who betray. Like in most, it's like a common trope in anime and manga, so I'm just kind of like whatever. But yeah, I think lots of crazy stuff happens. A lot of people die. Reminds me of a Chainsaw Man chapter, if I'm going to be completely honest. Just with the amount of insane, like, just the amount of insane moments that happen just throughout right now. But yeah, that's just, I mean, there's a big fight. We get introduced to Mr. Azumi. So yeah, it's just sort of just a lot of great things setting up. It's probably the most intense chapters. Of course, we get Sojo, Azumi. We get big fights. We get a lot of people that are murdered, and yeah, or not Azumi, Azami. I can't believe I said it wrong. It's Mr. Azami. So, Mr. Azami. I'm interested to see where they go from here. They did also mention that the government is not necessarily on their side. Mr. Shiba used to be a part of that group, but he had since left. And yeah, it's just we're gonna have to see where this story plays out. Will Chihiro have to fight? I mean, he is fighting the mafia right now, but will he eventually have to fight this government organization? That is yet to see, but it could be an interesting route to go down where he's like, it's almost like One Piece in a sense with its like villains, where it's like you have like, you know, of course the Navy is evil, and of course navies are against the pirates, so of course they're gonna clash. But then you also have other pirates, other pirate groups that they also clash with. So it's like a flip flop. So, whoa, I guess it turned into an echo there. But maybe it goes into just, you know, just straight up just fighting, just fighting. You know, just the mafia, or it could end up being both, and that could be an interesting plot point too. Or they could also go with the mafia and this government organization are working hand in hand. So that could also be something cool. Last thing I think really quickly is I guess the auction, or where their base is taking place. It reminds me of the Infinity Castle from Demon Slayer. Um, the way the layout it looked like, the layout of it, which looks very interesting. And we also do see two shadowy figures that, of course, Sojo is reporting to. And if Sojo's the big boss, that has two of these swords, how powerful are these other two people that he is reporting to? So that's going to be interesting. So really great things. When Chihiro eventually beats Sojo, I wonder where the story is going to go from here, because it's going to be very fascinating. But yeah, um, aside from that, it's a great chapter. Probably the best two chapters so far in Kakurabachi. And this is what I mean. This is what I was missing. I needed some spice. I needed something to keep me hooked long term going forward. These two chapters were it. And I am more than excited to see what happens next chapter. Or for the next two chapters, because it's going to be another 2 weeks before we get that. But yeah, what did you guys think of Kakurabachi? It was pretty epic. At least for me, probably I would give it around. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. But like chapter 7, or sorry, chapter 7 would be probably an 8 out of 10. Chapter 8 would be a 9 out of 10. So yeah, I just think great stuff. Keep going. I am more on board, and I am more excited to see where Kakurabachi leaves off. So, yeah, again, if you have any thoughts on this chapter, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. Did you feel the same way about me? Do you think it's getting a little bit tropey? Do you feel like you're losing interest in the story? I want to hear all your thoughts and more. And yeah, that's, I guess, pretty much it. And thanks for watching.